Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. It's been about a week since my last video. That one's up. I put it in last week. I put it in the description so you can check it out. In that video, I talked about replacing the spark plugs, which I have done. And I am in the process of replacing the valve cover gaskets, both sides, and the PCV valve. And if you've seen one of my other videos, when I did the vacuum leak test with the eBay smoke tester that I bought, you remember that there was a smoke coming out of this threaded hole right here, and I finally figured out what the problem was. But unfortunately, during the week, I decided to buy another one. I took my chances on it. It said it was for 2012 on eBay. The only problem is, if you look at them both, they're very similar everywhere. The only differences are this one uses like these, I don't even know if it's copper, but we'll call them copper threaded fittings. And the other difference is where the bolt goes in. You see how it comes out, so you can thread it. Well, on this one, it's got this, they made this stepped up instead of flush down, so it must have used a longer bolt, because these obviously won't work. So now I had to figure out, I'm probably just going to resell this one. So what I did find out, and I should have done this before I purchased that one and really looked into this. I think this is the side. Yeah. So in here, I know it's really hard to see. I'll do that. If you look in there, do you see how the light's coming through? Just took it away, put it back. So that's where the hole is. So what happened was, when I put the engine cover on, I must have, I don't know, maybe I put a longer bolt than I should have, or I really went really deep. Yeah, I don't understand how you figure they would put the bolt that would just fit there perfectly and not hit that part. But yeah, definitely went all the way through, because when you look at this one, same spot right here, and you look through here, it's nice and clean, no breakage at all. But on this one, you could actually see, it's really hard to tell with the camera, but yeah, you see the light there. There's a little piece of plastic hanging there that you can't really see in the camera, but it's there. So it definitely broke through. So what I'm thinking is, I'm gonna put this shorter bolt here and just put silicone and just seal it in place. And then when you put the engine cover back on, put it on the right way, if I can figure this out. Jeez, it can't be that hard, right? So anyways, I'll just have those four, and then this one's just gonna sit like that, which is fine. I can live with that. This is gonna this is not a mechanical piece. So 4 out of 5 bolts holding it down, I can live with that. I just have to make sure that I buy the best kind of silicone for this. I gotta go do some research. Other than that, the other things that I've been doing is locating all the. This is the plenum gasket. I actually went to the Nissan dealer because it's the same part number that I got off of DIY, All Data DIY. I called the Nissan dealer and I just gave him the part number. And they were able to locate it. So I know that it's the same Infiniti part number, same as the Nissan part number. Here are the valve cover. These are the center ones, the ones that go where the spark plug holes are. And these are the ones that go around the edges of the valve cover. Got the 2 PCV valves. If you see my other video, remember when I did this, it hardly made a noise. This one does, so that one's working well. So I have all the gaskets. I have the plenum, intake plenum, and all I need to do now is do this piece. You must be wondering why Honda. Well, I used to work on a Honda dealer. We used to do valve cover gaskets all the time, and this stuff is awesome. And we actually, if you read it, it says silicone skins in 15 minutes, dries in 1 hour, and fully cures in 24 hours. Because we worked in the shop and we didn't have time to have a car sit overnight just for that, we would throw it on, test drive it, and send it out. Never came back for leaks, so this stuff is really good. So I love using this. So that's what I'm using for the 4 corners. Here we go. At the 4 corners, I pulled the All Data DIY directions. It gives you all the torque, the sequence of bolts, of how you should put them in what order, and where you're supposed to put the silicone, which we already know. And it says to do this in 2 steps. So I converted the inch pounds into foot pounds. I think I have a 1/4 inch torque wrench, so I should be able to use the 18-inch pounds. But I don't know. I have to look. We'll see. So step 1, you do it at 18 inches first, following the sequence, and then you start all over. But the second time you do it at 73 inches foot-pound. So once I'm done with that, I bought something else because these things suck in a ridiculous amount of oil. You can't really see here, but if you've ever had one of these apart and you've looked in there, it's just coated in oil. So I figured, the PCB valves, they can only do so much. They always let oil through regardless whether they're new or not. So I went online, did some research, and the only company that actually makes a full kit for this car is Mishimoto. It's not the cheapest. It's like a little bit over $400, but it saves me the trouble of trying to piece together a universal one for this. So I bit the bullet, and I know I've never really said what my intentions with my build is. It's kind of like I'm trying to keep it cheap build, kind of not buying the cheapest, kind of buying the stuff, stuff that's like in the middle range, price wise. And that's kind of like what I've been doing, except maybe the Manso axle back, which I think might be one of the cheapest ones that actually fit this car. Everything else is kind of like in the medium side, and later on I'll make a video of how much stuff cost and so forth. I'll do the breakdown. But this thing, it's actually pretty nice, pretty good quality. So here's the bracket, and essentially you remove those 3 bolts, and this goes in here just like that. Then you put those 2 bolts back, put that one back, and the little catch can. It's actually really small, kind of cute even. So one goes here, comes with 2 obviously, one for each intake. Goes there. You have your in and out. I'm assuming your in goes to your PCV valve, the out goes back to the intake hose. One there, one here. Everything fits perfect. All the hoses are already, I don't believe I had to cut them. Everything should just be, it's made specifically for this car, so I shouldn't have to cut anything. Everything should just fit from the box. And I say should because, aftermarket, you never know. But fingers crossed. Looks like a really nice quality oil catch can. Doesn't seem cheap at all. And I'm hoping I'll be making a video on this after I do on my first oil change. I'll check to see how much oil is in here. So that's the kit. Here are all the hoses. There's the other catch can. Some clamps are in there. Hoping to have this done today. Obviously I'm gonna have to let that Honda valve cover, gasket, silicone, whatever, dry up overnight. I really want it to dry really good, so I won't start this up until tomorrow morning, but I'll definitely have this done today. And when I do, obviously it'll be overnight for me. For you guys it'll be instant. I'll just cut the clip right in at the end of this one, or at the end when I'm done putting everything back together. So let me get started. Okay, I got the driver's side valve cover back on. I did a lot of prep work. I cleaned the surface really well where the rubber part of the gasket touches on the top of the engine. So I think preparation is very important. I didn't put that on camera because it's very boring work. So I literally just sat there cleaning every piece of surface, the bottom of the valve cover, anywhere there were these bolts were gonna, the actual bolts were gonna sit on. I cleaned the bottom of that, and then I follow the torque specs and the torque procedure. As you can see, I put tape over the the whole, as it tells you on the all data DIY. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And what I did at first, so when you first put it on, like in the past, the ones that I've done, the three here where the spark plugs go, there's usually like a guide. So you put it in, and it actually just helps you guide you in there. On this one, everything's flat, so there's really nothing guiding you. So when you put it on, it just looks very awkward, and there's really no way of centering it. You just, when you put it on, you do your best to center it, but what actually centers it in the right spot is the bolts. So once you start tightening down the bolts, it'll start to center. and where it needs to sit. Because if you look at the holes where the spark plugs go, they're pretty dead center, so it's where it needs to be. It's not all cocked. If it was kind of off, cocked to one side more than the other, I'd be a little bit worried, but it looks pretty good to me. And what I did at first, I did it hand tight. And this is a 10 millimeter, by the way, 10 millimeter bolt. So I used this, an extension in the 10 millimeter, and I just started with the one, gave it a couple turns, went to 2, did a couple turns, 3, couple turns, and so forth. And I kept doing that all the way around until it got a little tight. Then I used the 1/4 inch torque wrench, set it to 73 inch-pounds, and I did the same thing. I didn't go for the torque immediately. I gave it a couple turns, maybe 1, 2, 3. Just, it's all by feel. And if you've done something like this before, you know what it feels like. So you do 1, 2 on the first one, 1, 2 on the second, and then so forth. You just keep going until eventually it starts to get tight. And right before it gets to that, it starts to feel really tight. That's where you want to be at, right before you do your final torque. Because when you do your final, you want to make sure that they're all sitting about in the same spot as far as tightness goes. And like I said, you can feel that once you get to that point, because the turn, it just won't turn easy anymore, and that's where you want to stop. Once you get to that point, you go back to 1, and then you give it on. You don't want to do it in a jerking motion. You want to do it in a nice, evenly soft turning motion. So all in one motion too. You don't want to go a little bit click. You want it to go, you want to do the turn, click, go to the next one, turn, click, and you want to do them all in the same motion. And so once it clicks, stop, go to the next one, turn, click, stop, and then all the way to number 11. So I did this side. I'm gonna put it all back together. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna put the intake plenum on, and when I get to that point, I'll restart the video. I'm gonna stop it now and then restart when the intake plenum's back in. Alright, well, before I put the valve cover on, I wanted to show you how I clean the surfaces, these areas. I did my best to clean them, because like I said earlier, the prep is very important, because you don't want to put it over oil and the valve cover gasket. You don't want to put it over oil and the silicone that's left over from the factory. So I cleaned that very well. I cleaned this surface where the spark plug holes are. I cleaned that very well. So this one's gonna be a little harder because of this. So I'm hoping, to get it in there as good as I can without messing up the silicone too bad. At least that's the plan. Try to clean out all these little debris of junk that fell in the inside. So that's what it looks like. Let's put it on. I wanted to show you something. The PCV valve. Remember how in one of my other videos I kind of shook it? You can kind of hear a little ticking, kind of. Check out the new one. That's what it looks like. Can you hear it? Can you hear the difference? Much different. This one's mechanism inside is not as good anymore, so it doesn't really do its job as well, and that's what more oil gets through it into the intake tube. That's why the intake manifold or plenum is just full of oil. So getting a new one, totally worth it. With the catch can from Mishimoto, should make a world of difference. FYI, the new one does not come with an O-ring. I just reuse the old one. If it fails, it's very easy to get to. I'll just buy a new one. Alright. Alright, I'm back. And here's where I'm at. Valve covers are back in, both sides. Throttle body spacer, throttle body, both sides. All the loose ends, nuts and bolts and wires, sensors back in. I think tomorrow, I don't have time to finish today. I'm gonna finish tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm gonna, since I have the intakes out, I'm going to install the mishimotooilcatchcans. Just kind of leave them ready for when I do put the intakes in. They'll be ready to go. And that bolt, remember I said I was gonna put some epoxy or silicone or something in there, so I put the same gasket, Honda gasket maker that I use for the valve covers. And this stuff is pretty crazy. Just to show you, I was kind of, before I even started, I tried to practice a little bit to see what it looked like, to have an idea. And this stuff is tough, super tough. It's almost dry. Like the outside is super dry, like really hard. You can still feel a little bit of I guess silicone inside that hasn't dried yet. But I mean, oh well, I think that one's from when I did the bolt a few minutes ago. So here's another one. This one's from way earlier, like 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago maybe. And I'm pinching it hard and it's not, nothing's happening to it. Same with this one. You can still feel some fluid in there, some silicone that hasn't dried. But you know, outside is like hard to pop. So that's why I like this stuff. I would totally recommend it on any valve cover. I don't care if it's a Honda, Toyota, Nissan, won't matter. It works. Alright, so I'm gonna cut out. The next clip will be cutting into the morning when I have probably the Mishimoto catch can in and the intakes. And actually I'll be ready to start as soon as I'm done with that, because the valve cover silicone maker, silicone, whatever you call it. I'm so tired, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. This has been a rough job from the beginning. I've been working on it a little bit every weekend. I think I'm in it 4 weekends now, maybe 5, I can't even remember anymore. And like on some weekends, well, Saturday and Sunday, trying to get it done. You know, today I started, I don't know, kind of early, around 10, not too early, slept in a little. And it's about, I want to say 6:30, so a couple hours in, with a couple breaks in between. Okay, light's starting to flicker. I guess the batteries are going out. But anyways, yeah, see you in the morning.